Where's my list? There we go. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the USL show, sponsored by Roughneck Scarves, your home for men's and women's national team USL and MLS scarves, as well as custom scarves for your club or personal use. Check those guys out, roughneckscarves.com. The podcast is also produced by the Beautiful Game Network of podcasts, which we are very proud to be a part of. Definitely check the whole network out at bgn.fm, as well as on Twitter at the BGNFM. Quick plug, Hugh Roberts just released, I think, the second episode of Backyard Footy with Joseph Samuel, which Joseph's got a really cool story. If you guys need to kill some time or just want to hear a really cool USL story from a really interesting kid, definitely check that one out. I'm your host, Evan Villela, joined sometimes by my soccer colleagues, sometimes by my soccer acquaintances, but they are always my soccer friends. And for the next hour or so, I will be your moderator, host, or maybe even your facilitator of a discussion of who we think the best and worst teams in the league are, which this will be fun. I'm sure people will be really happy. Joining me, of course, it's the waviest man in the St. Louis metropolitan area, creaming your Irish coffee, Phil Grims. Phil, what's up?
Hey, I did that thing tonight that a lot of 35-year-old dads do. I did mine like a week or two too late, so my grass was too long. So it was like, instead of like a 1 hour endeavor of doing my first lawn mowing today, it was like 2 or 3 hours.
I honest to God thought you were going to say your taxes.
No, I took care of my taxes.
I didn't. I wasn't on the page. I wasn't on the same page either. But yeah.
Okay. All right, that's great.
I wanted to leave it ambiguous anyway.
Okay, all right. That other voice you just heard, he's basically the best parts of Chuck Palahniuk and Elliott Smith. It's Big Kevin McCamish.
Gold leader checking in.
Yeah, I like it.
Good. If USL had an Equestria, he would be our Rainbow Dash. If you think he hates your team, well, one, it's because he has facts to back it up, and two, it's because you're right. It's Pony.
And I will be making one East team very unhappy today, but it might not be who you think.
Hey,
well, it's probably going to be them too.
It's always them, at least.
And then last month, if I can refresh everyone's memory, we had the lovely Mike Watts on to tell us how wrong we are. This month we have a new challenge. It is former Tulsa Roughneck right midfielder. He was the fan vote for Rookie of the Year in 2015. There's a lot of teams that are very lucky that he switched to an analyst, even though I think he could still probably pick a cross out from the sideline. Former number 24, Brady Ballou.
It's been a hell of a downfall.
Wow.
Wild ride all the way down.
Hey, man, you finally reached rock bottom. Welcome to the USL show.
Yeah,
Thank you. Hey, at least I did my taxes.
Yeah, good man.
Good.
Man. Yeah. So I guess, how do we, I guess we'll just start. Brady, I'll let you pick, East or West?
West.
Okay.
Ooh.
Not a surprise. Tulsa guy picks his home conference. All right. So 16th. Oh, God. 16th place. We have a tie between LA Galaxy 2, of which Ryan, myself, and Phil have picked them at 16th, and Kevin and Pony have picked them at 17th. And joining them in 16th is your former club, my friend, Tulsa.
It's a shame, but right now it's a long season. I think there's room for growth for both LA and Tulsa, but right now, we're holding it down in the back.
Yeah. Always, you got to start out with like low expectations and then build your way up throughout the season. So it's a really
I like to think of it as like a slingshot. You put the heavy rock in, you pull it all the way back to launch yourself forward.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can dig it.
I think, well, to me, Tulsa has the most potential that's why I'm a little bit high, is out of 5 of their games have been draws or 1-goal losses. And you could argue they should have probably got all the points from Sacramento over the last weekend. I think that's why I have them a little bit higher than everyone else. Is I think they have potential to break out of the bottom more than teams like LA does.
I think they're going to be the definition of scrappy this year, right? Because they're not young kids. They're not a 2-side. There are a lot of veterans out there, and they know what they're doing. But they're having to compete. It's been tough for them. Maybe the quality of players as a whole is not up to par. Maybe whatever they're dealing with in Tulsa is not working for them, but they're like scrapping out these draws and it could improve. I think these veterans could step it up and I think they could get better. But yeah, it's more scrappy than the 2-sides, even though the 2-sides, they're just a bunch of young guys sometimes that can't compete. But these veterans, it's kind of interesting to watch.
And honestly, I think that'll be the theme of the night for a lot of those two teams, is that there's a lot of question marks, but there's some teams where the answers to those are a little more clear, or at least the best case scenario for them is a lot better than others. And honestly, I think that's why I have LA kind of where they are. It's 16 instead of 17, just because I think when they put it together, I mean, both teams are like that, but where they put it together, they're a good team. It's just who can put it together more often than the other one, really.
I think for Tulsa, it's been kind of a bit of an identity crisis over here. I mean, we've lost the likes of Juan Pablo Caffa. Kind of, he was the everything went through him. And then when you go from something like that, someone you depend on and can count on, and then you replace it with wholesale changes, well, all of a sudden, who are you? And after that gets you your first playoff, appearance, who are you? And so I think that's been a bit of a struggle for Tulsa this year, but they're starting to find their footing with, 3 draws in a row?
And we keep talking about with Tulsa, like having quality players, and it was really evident that they were quality because everyone came and stole all those quality players pretty early on in the offseason, and Tulsa lost a lot of those guys, and 1 or 2 were Chicago Fire guys. Can you tell us more about that, Brady? Do you kind of agree with that?
I'm just a little curious why no one stole me. It's like, what happened there? Okay. No, I mean, all the guys that have been plucked and put into other teams, like Colin Fernandez, Joey Calistri, Juan Pablo Caffa. I mean, those were guys that racked up a ton of minutes and earned, whether it be just a slightly bigger club or more money or whatever the reason is, it was completely warranted. So it's frustrating, I imagine, for the Tulsa roustabouts and all the fans as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, these are really good young guys, except for Caffa. He's my grandfather. But that's exactly what you want for Joey and Collins. You want them to move up. And so now they have the opportunity to impact a bigger club more frequently.
And they're doing well for the most part. All those guys are. So
absolutely.
Moving on, 15th, Seattle Sounders 2. We previously had them at 16th, so they move up a spot. Ryan Philponi had him at 14. Me and Kev have him at 15.
Do we always kind of pair Seattle and Portland, even though it's on accident? I feel like that keeps happening.
Not this month, but mostly.
As a group, I always seem to move them right next to each other, and I don't know why, per se. Especially now, I kind of put Portland a lot higher, but still, I kind of see them as similar teams. I don't know. Kevin, you said why, so prove me wrong.
No, I don't just kind of why, because Portland is not Seattle. I understand though, they're both like the clubs, the first team clubs are rivals. The organizations are both like very strongly trying to outdo each other. It's highly competitive, a lot of it in a good manner, so people from not in the Pacific Northwest are probably like, oh yeah, it's one of those two teams.
I agree. I was just thinking, I think it's because I'm so removed and I don't think about them all the time. I think that's a big part of it.
They had that big-ish win over RGV. And honestly, outside of that 3-1 loss to Real Monarchs, they've played pretty well. Most recently they got that 0-0 draw against Colorado where they were down to 10 men. So not too bad in terms of results. Again, I think it comes down to a lot of the MLS2 sides where you don't really know a whole lot about them. And, Sounders 2 historically have been a developmental club, and those tend to fall to the wayside in terms of results, at least in the Western Conference.
I agree with you. I think both Seattle and Portland, I mean, look at Vancouver. They just got rid of their team altogether. But with Seattle, they have a strong academy, and so a lot of their T2 or S2 players are their academy players. I think they play more. Don't take my word for it, but I think they play more academy players than Portland does right now, because they have the strong base there with which to start. So they have a lot of young kids. They have a couple people that I don't know how many of the people they loaned down from Seattle, but it's the same situation as Portland. It's youth, it's inexperience, but the raw talent is there, and so the raw talent will shine, but not consistently.
Yeah, and I think LAFC 2 is another team that plays a lot of their academy guys too. So I kind of
wait, what? LAFC?
Oh my goodness. I said that LA Galaxy.
There's two of them now.
You think you're getting mixed up with Portland and Seattle? Just wait until it's LAFC 2 and LA Galaxy 2.
What happens when you start calling the New York Red Bulls 2 the Metro Stars?
Get less confused, honestly.
Yeah.
The less you have to explain RB2-1 versus
the better my life is. Yeah. Anytime a 2 team puts up 2 goals, I'm just lost.
Yeah, that's actually the only reason I want them to get rid of the 2. Use or something else.
Thank you.
But no, LA Galaxy 2, they use their youngins as well. Same with T2, Toronto 2. All these teams, they're playing the young guys, and they seem to be the bottom of the power rankings because of all the things we've mentioned so far, I think. Yeah.
Brady, is that accurate? Is that a thing that you think kind of holds true? These clubs, not so much I guess the adage is, a lot of the coaches will say, the results are kind of secondary to the developing players. And as much as that probably is the case, those guys don't want to lose either. So, what's kind of, as a guy that's played those teams before and knows, what they're about on a very, I was going to say intimate, but personal level, what's that like on the field?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit harder to get up for those kind of games when you're going to Timbers 2 and you're playing at the University of Portland with 6 people in the stands, or whether you're at their big stadium
with 6 people in the stands.
Yeah, with 6 people in the stands. But yeah, I'm very close with Kyle Bjornathan, who was he's a Seattle University grad as well, and he's now with Toronto 2. And I didn't really get too much time to chat with him about it, but he did allude to the fact that it's even hard for him to get up for games like that when he knows they're kind of putting out this, not half-hearted, but just this, young lineup that doesn't really stand a chance against. If any team has 4 solid players, eventually they're going to break down an 18-year-old kid. So it makes it tough for the league, but I think it's also important because you see some of that raw talent really shine through the cracks like a dandelion in concrete, but I honestly think there's a different place in a different league for those type of teams, and I think it's just a matter of time before that kind of happens.
Fair enough.
Dandelion in concrete.
That's really good.
I'm poetic.
Can I steal that right now? I'm writing the tweet, if that's right. Great. Yeah, and it's another one of those things where and I guess mostly Kevin and I experienced that from a media talking to club or players that are in a system like that experience. So we know about those guys as much as we can in that relationship. But I think for a guy like you, where, you talk to those guys as a fellow player and you get a little more out of it, or it's a little more something that you can kind of understand on a personal level on maybe how difficult it is sometimes to get up to play a group of 16-year-olds or whatever it may be.
Definitely. Yeah. You want to play 1 in front of a crowd and 2 against, it's nothing to say. Look at Alphonso Davies. The guy at any age would have been better than I would have ever could have become. So it's not to discredit them. It's just you want other teams to put out a product that fans are really, really interested in and will actually, leave their homes to come see. That's what I think the USL has an opportunity to do. And with these 2 teams, it's kind of a big question mark for players.
Sure. I smell a return podcast with you covering that more in depth, but that's for another time. Because we could talk about that for hours, I'm sure, but let's not. We're moving on. 14th place, moving down 9 spots from 6, which is the biggest drop we've had. It is the Oklahoma City Energy. Phil, you had them 12th. Pony, you had them 16th. Pony, would you like to explain why you have them 16th?
They just look broken. And it's one of those where we all are kind of high on these guys coming into the season, but nothing's looked right. And they're continuously shooting themselves in the foot. Their offense has no bite. Their defense, which has usually been their strong point, has gone away. They've dropped 6 in a row, and they lost one of their best strikers to probably a multiple game suspension for a red card against Reno last week. I think this slide's going to continue, and I don't know what exactly is wrong with Oklahoma City, but right now I don't see a clear way to right the cart and get back on track for them.
Phil, you had them at 12th. I'm looking at their last couple results. 2-1 loss to Fresno, 3-0 loss to Timbers 2, 1-0 loss to your St. Louis FC, and then a 2-0 loss to Reno, and they picked up 2 red cards in back-to-back games. So what about kind of their, we'll call it early season jitters, I suppose, has you kind of optimistic they'll turn around and end up in 12th?
Throughout this whole podcast, my feet are going to be cemented in and grounded by history. And I may be grounded in that a little too much because USL teams do have tons of turnover. And this team didn't just have player turnover, but coach turnover. And so I do have doubts in that way. And maybe I should have dropped them more. But historically, they get a bad start. And last year when they got Angulo back, they really picked up the scoring a little bit, and they still had that solid defense, and they were able to get really far in the playoffs. I think there was more than one PK situation, so perhaps that was a little fluky, and I'm still kind of teetering in that way. But OKC, I mean, they're a storied club with a good history of winning. Let's find out if that's Jimmy Nielsen or if that's the team itself, you know, to put together quality players and with good tactics to win.
Kev is the media member that's outside of, 12 or 16. Where do you see Oklahoma City? Is there anything that you're kind of, I don't know, looking forward to out of them? I mean, is it a case where it can't get much worse from where it is?
Well, I don't know. I know I dropped them from when I first started the season because of their results. And maybe they can pull it together, but I think I'm of the opinion that I think Jimmy was a pretty good coach and had them firing on all cylinders. And this season with the coaching change and your usual amount of USL turnover because of all the stuff that goes around, I think it's just a little bit too much for him. I don't remember where specifically I had them, but I don't think they're going to make the play. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team.
The red card thing's interesting because I thought they were I've always thought they were one of the most physical teams St. Louis had to play in the West. And, Brady, you guys had a cross-state rivalry. Do you agree with that? Or they may have kind of stepped it up for your rivalry, but what do you think?
Man, I just can't get excited talking about Oklahoma City. It's like in my blood now, I think. One, I think they made a big mistake getting rid of Michael Harris, the flip throw king. Man, that just puts so many chances in the box for them. And no, he's not a guy that is going to be, your 90-minute right back. But man, that's a guy that got him some victories deep into some seasons and some playoffs and made things happen. I mean, they just look lackluster to me.
Some Sports Center publicity on top of that.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, that's what the fans want to see as well. And so, you lose a little bit of that buzz. So I think that was a poor management move on their part.
Everyone, that was a very not so subtle plea from Brady to every organization in USL to find someone that can do a flip long throw in.
Vegas?
I know that Michael Harris is currently looking for a team. So somebody sign the guy.
Yo, Vegas, what are you doing?
Come on. He can flip throw it into the net.
Come on.
Vegas doesn't need the
over a llama and throw it in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Flip throw off of a llama.
Love it.
Anyway,
he can flip throw a llama.
Ooh. Brady, do you think he can actually flip through a llama? Is that
so? Get this: Michael Harris and I are old club teammates back at Snohomish United, and we won a U16 state championship off of a 60-yard front flip throw in. So anything is possible, you guys.
I need
nice.
it. Yeah,
the dream is
Space Jam.
The dream is still alive. Yeah.
What were we talking? Right. Whenever we mention Vegas, it gets a little sideways around here.
Yeah, it's the way they meant it to be.
It works, man. It works. 13th, Rio Grande Valley FC. We had him at 12th. They drop a spot. Their Pony had him at 11th. Phil, you had him at 15th. Let me read off some matches. Last 4 for them. 2-1 loss to Colorado Springs. 3-2 loss to Sounders 2. Goofy 3-2 loss to Timbers, where both teams saw red. And then they somehow managed to beat Orange County 2-0 Wednesday the 25th. So
That's
Phil and Pony, it's you guys again, but you're on opposite sides of this one.
I like it. This is how I like it. I like going head to head with Pony. Pony, maybe you should start.
These guys aren't really bad. I mean, they have 3 losses, but they're all on the road. They're all by 1 goal. Sure, you think with those 3 teams, you really want probably 3 points. You want to get 1 win in there. But at home, they're still unbeaten through 3 games. They drew Sacramento. Or not drew, yeah, they drew Sacramento at home. They drew St. Louis at home. They beat Orange County at home. Those 3 games by themselves, I think you have to put them out of the bottom quarter of the league because they have potential to beat the top teams. Maybe it's only going to be at home. They're going to be like a West Coast Tampa Bay situation. But I think Rio Grande Valley is going to be underrated. And at home, they're probably going to steal points from a few very good teams like we just saw them do.
Here's the problem with RGV for me is I sincerely like them, and I really liked them early on, and I was starting to buy into RGV, but their main plan seems to be to kind of semi sit back and pick their chances and attack hard, and they do a pretty good job of that, but they kind of rotate their attackers, and I don't know if it's the rotation or if for me personally with the eye test that counterattack is not like. It's not extreme enough for me. I want to see like Charleston Battery last year early on, granted with Romario Williams. But with all those players they had, they would have an outlet and they'd be hitting every possible chance they could. They'd be hitting teams on the counter. I want them going a little more extreme, and I think they'd get more goals. Perhaps they'd give up some more. I don't know, but I just want to see them score a few more goals or look a little more dangerous because they do have some cool attackers, some guys that could do some things. But it's just never quite enough to make me really like them. And so I kind of left them down low.
Fair enough. Brady, thoughts on RGV?
Man, I consistently think RGV has individual players that you put them in any other team, and they're going to be some of the better players on any other team. But together, I think they all kind of they hide each other's talent, and for whatever reason, that final product that they put on the field, just I think everyone's like waiting for the other person to do something substantial. So individually talented as a team, I think where you guys have them ranked kind of in that 11th to 12th position is fitting.
I agree with that, and that's why I said they kind of rotate their attackers because I feel like every time I watch them, I'm like, oh man, where's that winger I just saw? He's not
totally, yeah.
Or that huge target forward they played. Maybe he came down from Houston, and he was really interesting. But it's like too much of a rotation. I can't get used to these guys. I can't. Maybe the team can't get used to these guys. On top of that, I don't know.
12 and 11. We have both the Reno team, the Nevada teams. I'm bad at geography. 12th Reno, 11th Las Vegas. Reno drops off 1. They were 11th last month. Vegas up 3 from 14. I guess my big question is after and we don't know how long it'll be, but we could figure a couple games after the Chalice suspension for Vegas. Reno seems to be doing all right, but maybe having a little bit of trouble with their identity right now. What's everyone feeling about these two teams and what's going to happen here in the next month or so for them?
We ranked them between 11th and 13th, so we're all pretty close on this.
Right.
Brady, you've seen them with Dane Kelly and is it Chris Weehan?
Yeah.
They don't have either of those guys for the most part unless Weehan gets loaned down. So what do you think of this team without those two?
Man, without those two, and then Jimmy Ockford as well in the back. I mean, that you guys hit it on the head. I think it's an identity crisis. It's who's going to be the provider and who's going to put away the goals. That's a lot of kind of importance to put on Antoine Hoppeneau, who's a quick, fast, good player, but he can't do it alone. That's for sure. So the Mfeka in the middle is quite the player. But once again, if it's all the pressure on 2 guys, and that's a lot to ask for. To mimic what Dane Kelly and Chris Weehan and the other guys could do, to put on those 2 guys in a follow-up season, that's a lot to ask.
And then for Vegas, is there more to this club than the gimmicks? Like,
I don't know, man. It's Sammy Ochoa spent 2 years in Tulsa, and I kind of still stand by it. He was one of the better players I've ever been lucky enough to play with, just the way and how he went about training and how he finishes opportunities. And Alvarez coming over from San Antonio. I mean, they have high caliber players up front. I don't know too much about their back line, but they seem to be competitive, and it's just like, I really don't know where these guys are going to end up. They could, make a run in the playoffs, or they could be last in the league, and neither would surprise me.
Fair
I
enough.
think that sums it up. I thought Vegas was a gimmick, but they like Evan and I have talked about in the past. It's not soccer. It's performance art parading as soccer.
Yeah.
But to be fair, it's worked for them. I think that I've got him 11th. I put him at 11th, which was much higher than I had him last month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'll be going any higher, because I can see that like a lot of things, Pogs and fidget spinners, Las Vegas FC is probably going to, that whole gimmick is going to wear off a little bit. And I think reality is going to kind of set in, and they'll probably start falling back to where I had them at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think Las Vegas and Reno are both two similar teams in the sense that I have no idea what's going to happen with these two teams. I could see them both catching fire and moving way up the table, and I could see both just completely going to crash and burn and dropping down really quickly. They're in that kind of no man's land territory where each week I don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, Reno got a 2-goal win, but they're playing against a 10-man Oklahoma City for almost the entire game, and it took them a long time to get the first goal. Yep. While Vegas ground out a draw against Salt Lake when Vegas had 0 shots on goal. It's one of those where these two teams are just really, really confusing. And like I said, I can see them both sneak in the playoffs. I can see both completely whiff. The next month or so is going to be important for it.
10-9. Sorry, Phil, go for it.
Sorry. These constant pulling out these results that you don't expect from these teams is really actually the only thing that keeps them up in the rankings for me, not lower. Because if Fresno keeps drawing and then they figure something out, I mean, Juan Cafa is no joke. I mean, I saw this guy play so good, and if he can figure something out with his midfield or even with his top end striker, I think it's Johnson, they could go on a crazy run and slip into the playoffs and do even better than that. Look at what Oklahoma City did last year with probably less attack than that. So that's the thing. I completely agree with Pony where he's like, these guys could crash and burn, or these guys could take off. The other weird thing is, I kind of said this in our little message thread that we have going, our private message thread, where I was like, I'm starting to have faith in Vegas's defense, and I think Pony kind of shut me down. I'll give you an opportunity to tell me what you said, Pony. I forgot what it was, but the last thing I'll say here is that they just played the Monarchs, one of the best teams, if not the best team in the West, a man down almost the entire game, who with Wiki out, who I think is probably their best center back personally. I don't know if that's true. And they got a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, this was their first shutout of the entire season, and it wasn't Weekly, it was Al Torre. I think Weekly was just arguing it because he's the captain. But I mean, I
thought it was Wiki that went out.
No, I think it was someone else, and he just was the captain, so he yelled at the ref for a while.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But yeah, they bunkered very, very well. I mean, Real Monarchs should have probably come away with like a 2-0 win. They missed a few good chances that they usually will finish.
Yep.
But I think Vegas proved that they can bunker pretty well, and that could be a very good skill. And I mean, if they could get a 1-goal lead and bunker like that, they could beat a lot of teams if they manage to sneak in that first goal.
10-9-8 in the West. Portland 2, Colorado Springs, and Fresno sneak into the first playoff spot in our. Not that means anything in May, but there you go. Kev, you put Timbers 2 up at 8th. I am curious.
Well, if I wasn't the person who had them as the highest ranked, I think I'd be a little shocked.
That's
to be honest. There's a little bit of homerism in that ranking. I probably should have had them at like 9th or 10th, just outside of the playoff picture. But I was trying to be a little bit hopeful, you know. What they're doing, I think, this season is very similar to what they were doing in 2015, their first season, which was getting some good results, having some bad results, but overall they were developing the talent that they wanted to do, and they were playing the right way. And in general, they were not a bad team. They were a mid-table team. They did that also in 2016, kind of being a mid-table team. But at the end of that season, they went on like a crazy 5 or 6, 7 game winning streak to just miss out on the playoffs. So this is more like 2015, where they were pretty mid-table average throughout the entire season. And I think that'll continue. So I think that they'll probably be flirting with the 10th and 9th, places for the most of the season, and probably just miss out on the playoffs like they usually do.
Pony of Colorado at 12th.
Yeah, I just don't really see it for them yet. They have a few okay wins, but through 9 games, they've never won without scoring multiple goals. And when you can't do multiple goals, if you can't win without multiple goals, I'm kind of going to raise a red flag right out the gate. I mean, they could turn into a decent team, but I see a lot of weaknesses, especially on the road still. And when they're not a team who could win every single home game like other teams who have that same composition can, I think Colorado Springs is going to kind of flounder around the edge of the playoffs, but it's not really going to make it. They're going to get passed by the average teams at the last minute.
It's all about that home game for them, especially.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we all pretty much settled on Fresno, right? At 8, maybe sneaking in the 7th. Brady, out of those 3 picks, is there anything you're like, that doesn't make any sense?
Well, I think, Kevin, you should be hopeful of Portland being 8th. I don't think that's too much of a stretch, in that they've kind of brought in Moja Dama, who's a former Roughneck, Josh Phillips, a former Colorado guy. And I mean, to build that kind of core down the middle of your fields, I think you're right. It is a little bit of a hint towards 2015 when they were difficult to play. And so I think the combination of that group of guys between young and old, and then not having an atmosphere to play on where it's hard for opposing teams to get up for those games, that might, sneak them into that 8 spot. Colorado, I think, is like an interesting case because, one, it's extremely difficult to go there and get a result because of the altitude. You can decide if it's a big deal or not, but matter of fact is when you get there, it's hard to breathe. I don't know, it just sucks. And playing Colorado sucks for whatever reason. They're just a tough team to I don't know. The stadium's kind of weird. Not only is the air weird, but their style of play is never that consistent. You never know what they're gonna do. And then for Fresno, if I'm on Fresno's team and I'm in the attacking third, I would just fall down and let Juan Pablo Caffa take over. Let the man do his work.
Right. The thing is, the word is out on that. So
it is, yeah, yes.
St. Louis's main goal when they came to town was just don't foul anyone. Don't foul anyone and we can win this. And they drew, but still, that was their game plan because he's that good.
He's that good. And I mean, I think it was Amadou Dia. I don't know if you guys saw the challenge on Juan Pablo Caffa this past weekend at Phoenix, but I mean, it was just awful from behind tackle on the sideline in the middle of the field, straight red card. And so, I mean, that's one way to take him out of the game. But he's at the end of the day, he's still got a picture with Drogba. So I think he's a happy guy.
There you go.
Moving up, 765, San Antonio, St. Louis, Sacramento. Kev, you really don't like San Antonio.
Well, it gets hard to try to rank stuff when you start trying to nitpick who's going to be a little bit better than the other teams. And I just haven't seen anything from San Antonio so far that has me thinking that they're going to make the playoffs, or they're not a playoff team right now. So yeah, I had them kind of low.
I'm with you, Kev. I think I had them 7th, but they're dropping. And I think they could have gone even lower for me, even especially looking at who's already we've talked about here. They're having trouble, and this tier pack thing doesn't help. I do, however, love that they came out and blew out someone. Who was it? I forgot who it was, but they won 3-0. And they responded after that tier pack thing. I was afraid they would combust, that the locker room was falling apart because of this tier pack thing. And they look like perhaps they'll be okay. They got to keep it going, but if they keep it up and they keep improving, they're going to be just fine. And I know they were heavy on the wings anyway, so maybe that's why he left. We'll be talking about that more tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, it was 3-1 in Vegas. So, yeah.
That was a weird game.
That was a good game for San Antonio. I mean, I think we were saying a tier pack they left, but I think 2016 or 2017 when Oklahoma City moved Koenig over to Cincinnati, Oklahoma City started doing pretty well for a while right there. So it could be one of those things where you're trying to fit a system around a certain player, you can't make it quite work, so you cut ties, and then things start to work because you have a new system that your players just ease into better. I mean, Tierpak, again, he's a great player. Whoever picks him up is lucky, but it could be the same situation where he just isn't quite the right fit for the team.
I thought he went to Miami.
Miami FC team.
Yeah, he's with the Oakleash again.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Yep.
Are they non-existent?
Kind of.
They're doing the Open Cup, NPSL.
Oh, okay.
Same coach. He's played for that coach before.
That's it's an old Austin Aztecs connection, I think.
Yeah, Texas Radio Soccer. They talked about it, and we'll have Larry Leathers on from that show tomorrow. So tune in if you want to hear more about that.
Brady, player perspective, is that difficult to deal with, having a guy, especially a guy with that magnitude or who was that vital to that club, leave that? I mean, it doesn't happen often, but leave that suddenly.
He's a personality in that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a big personality, right?
Was this Tierpak? Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a head scratcher for me. I want to know what's going on because he was a guy that made things happen. He was also a guy that he would score multiple goals in a game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He could break a game wide open. So yeah, I mean, I think in the locker room there's probably some bit of confusion, but at the end of the day, like when someone leaves and a week later, like there's 25 other guys in the locker room to concentrate on. So I think it goes pretty quickly. So I don't think it'll be too big of a deal. And I kind of anticipate San Antonio like limping into a playoff spot.
Fair enough. 5, and then we have 2 teams at 3. So 5 is Sacramento Republic. Kev, you're gonna have to talk about that one. And then tied for 3rd, Orange County and Swope Park. Kev, you have Sacramento Republic at first.
Yeah.
What's
why?
up, man?
Because they're undefeated.
Okay.
Home and away so far. Why would I not have them at first? It's power rankings, right?
Yeah.
It's not record rankings.
Okay.
I like it. Tell me more.
Well, to be fair, I haven't watched a whole lot of them, but I'm fully expect when I see them tomorrow night play T2 that they'll probably win. And I don't think their unbeaten run's going to stop anytime soon. So I'm like, I've got it was between them or Real Monarchs, but because Real Monarchs have dropped a little bit, result wise, I gotta go with it's power, man. They've got the power. They're undefeated. I'm putting them up there.
They've been needing to come back against teams that you should argue they're much better than. I don't remember who scored first in the San Antonio game, but every other game where the opponent scored, the opponent opened the scoring. They're not dominating opponents. They're definitely better than I thought they were going to be, but I can't see them first at all. I think still living in Sacramento, I'd be happy if they finished 4th.
I know, but I got them first. I'm sticking with it.
All right.
It's not record rankings.
I put Orange County 5. They're really good right now. I don't know how sustainable that's going to be. Not that 5 is a huge drop off for them. I mean, they'll comfortably make the playoffs, but in the East, seeding is important. So I think they'd much rather be 3 than 5, but I don't know if they can maintain.
I ranked them pretty high for in the same way where I was like kind of closing my eyes. They're like a fan favorite. They're a lot of fun to watch right now. But I remember several seasons where people got really fast starts in the USL. And I remember the Whitecaps too got a really quick start when Koch was their coach, was 2 seasons ago.
Yep.
Colorado Springs went on a good run, and then a lot of them just die at the end of the season. And OC, like, it's just such a bubble all of a sudden. Granted, it's a new coach and a really good lineup, but I think they rank first for the close your eyes, they may die at the end of the season kind of pick.
Brady, would you rather have a team get hot now when it's early in the season and maybe you can kind of steal a result or two, or would you rather be kind of consistently 8 to 10 range and then get hot and make your way into the playoffs and ride the momentum into that?
You definitely want to peak at the right time, you know, but if you can get hot at any point in the season, I think that lends itself to a promising future at some point if you have it in your tank. Now, I think it's interesting to say, I think since Christian Duke has been a part of the USL, I don't think he's ever not made the playoffs.
Hey.
And I've always respected his engine as a player and his leadership and what he brings to a team. And so I kind of can't see that not happening again at OC, and with the likes of Aiden Quinn and Chaplow, and I mean and Selbel as well. I think he might be injured at the moment, but I mean this is a team that I'm just like, I'm kind of like, how did they not win the West? It was the most fun I had watching a USL team in a long time.
Yeah.
2-1 in the West. Phoenix number 2, number 1. Real Monarchs, who had a little blip squirrely game against who was it, Vegas, but they might be the best team in USL right now.
Yeah, they had a weird game, but I think it's hard to argue that anyone is going to be better than them on a whole. Maybe you could say Phoenix after their draw being down a man against Fresno, but I think the Monarchs, even with the weird loss in Tampa is not weird. Tampa at home wins,
right?
But the draw with Vegas definitely kind of was a shaky thing. But look at it, they should have won. I think it was just them playing poorly. But like I said, I don't think you could say anyone's really in the West is better than the Monarchs in a whole. I'm a little bit scared because last season they also started very, very hot, and the second half they dropped off and became more average, and then got bounced in the first round on penalty kicks. But I think they're still the first team, and Phoenix, I think, is a pretty clear number 2 team.
I apologize. I missed that we already talked about Swope, or that you mentioned them, Evan, but I want to mention Swope because I really respect what they're doing, like just 1 million passes per game and like an 83% completion percentage last year. That's on average for the whole season, people. That's ridiculous. And that means, of course, they're doing 1 million short passes all over the field, which is fine. And it's respectable that what they're trying to do. I forgot his first name, but Gutierrez in MLS for Sporting Kansas City. That dude went down, and Belmar is now playing for Sporting Kansas City right now, and he might get a lot of minutes. Just wanted to make sure we all knew that Belmar is out of the picture for at least 2 to 3 months if he's up for the entirety of that injury. So, I tweeted today that USL defenders are squealing with joy everywhere right now because that dude is crazy in the USL. But also watch him in MLS, see what he can do, see how the USL compares, because obviously he's ridiculously dominant in the USL, and I'm curious to see how good he is in MLS. It's always interesting to see what kind of players do well when they move up.
I'm going to have to check the schedule and see if the Portland Timbers play Sporting Kansas City while Belmar's with the team, because I can see that being a game where he will get up for that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that.
Carlton Belmar go. Who was that?
Oh, that was the Portland Timbers.
Oh, weird. Yeah, the
Timbers too, but yes.
Doesn't look like a great decision, but hindsight's 2020.
You can say that about a lot of players that we let go.
That's fair. Brady, if I had to, and maybe you're biased because you played in the West, but are Real Monarchs that much better than everybody else in the West, or maybe just in the league in general?
This is a tough one for me. Yes and no. I mean, one, they kind of have this. The University of Washington has a great connection with the Real Salt Lake organization and Craig Weibel, and so the University of Washington between 2010 and 2014 really kind of made a name for themselves in collegiate soccer with just really great defenders. Michael Harris, the flip throat king from Oklahoma City, Taylor Pay, who went on to play for Chicago Fire, the Timbers, somebody else, Real Salt Lake, I guess. And then you've got what's the skinny white guy in the back for Monarchs now, Gallagher, and then Justin Schmidt as well. So they kind of have this. They have success. You know what I mean? These players all know how to win. I mean, it's translating into USL. I think it's been the perfect transition. So between that and then guys like Velasquez and that Brody kid, I mean, this is a team that's just like they've got depth, and I think they've got Monarchs and Phoenix have the best depth in the West. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think as time goes on, that depth is going to show and really create a gap in the West for Monarchs and Phoenix.
Yeah, another guy, and I don't know if I like him just because I know him because he played a couple of years for Steel, and another Husky, but Josh Hurd.
Yeah, Josh Hurd. Josh Hurd and I played together in the PDL, and I mean that guy's scrappy and works his tail off.
Yep, he's scrappy. He's a spark plug. He does everything for his team. A really good locker room guy, just a really good guy. And I think not to give him too much credit because I'm a little biased, but
and he's Canadian.
Welsh Canadian,
right?
Matter of fact,
even worse.
Yeah, which is horrible. But a guy that I think brings a really interesting and positive locker room presence for them, even though he's only 24.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
Yeah, moving on to the East. I'm going to call these three teams, the less we talk about them, the better my life gets category. Ottawa, Toronto, Penn, 16, 15, 14. Oh, man. I guess we had Ottawa at 13th. They're now 16th. We had Toronto at 16th. They are now 15th. We had Penn at 15. They are now 14. So no one really out of the basement here as far as we're concerned. Does anyone who wants to...
Well, I was high on Fury, and they have done terrible. I'm eating crow on that for sure. But, I still have a little bit of faith in Nikola Popovic, unless it doesn't matter who coaches the Swope Park Rangers, and they're all kind of the same no matter who coaches them. I don't know. That's kind of something I'm thinking about right now that Ottawa's doing bad. But they did get the loan of it's Doniel Henry. I'm going to say Henry. Not okay, good. Wasn't sure if I should use the French pronunciation there, but a guy who's seen the world, played for or has been under contract with West Ham, Blackburn Rovers, and Vancouver Whitecaps. He'll go back to them after May, but they're having trouble defending, which used to be their bread and butter. Swope Park Rangers last year defended really well, so if they can figure that out, I think they'll jump up a bit. If they can't, they're screwed. They're in 16th for the duration.
Yeah, Ottawa first half of the game might be a top 10 team in the East.
Yeah.
Ottawa second half of the game is probably somehow lower than 16th.
Yeah, if you can distill Ottawa's performance against Cincinnati for the first 45 minutes, that's a great team. And then the second half happens.
Yeah, I think they're minus 12 goal differential in the second half right now after a month.
Someone told them that soccer games are 90 minutes, not 45 minutes, right?
No, apparently not.
No.
It's 45 Canadian minutes, which is 90 American minutes.
So I was high on Popovic at the beginning of the season, but Evan, you've had some conversations about Laurent. Who is he the coach, or is he like
Yeah, no, the Toronto's coach, their new coach, the French guy who has done a lot of work with the U.S. academy system. I'm still high on Toronto because I think they have kids that aren't going to get minutes with the first team that could use them with Toronto FC2 that are really good. And I just think organizationally they have a really good depth, and they have a pretty good academy in North America. They definitely have a really good academy by Canadian standards. I don't think they're going to light the world on fire, but I like them more than I like either team that they're sandwiched in between right now, as far as we're concerned. And then my reason for not liking Penn FC is just there's so many question marks still. And I mean, I like where they're going. They've been getting decent results. Ken Tribbett hit a really good bike out of nowhere. So if he wants to move up and play striker, I guess that's a possibility.
15.
But I just have Toronto above Penn FC and Ottawa at this point.
You'll get it into your head. You're gonna start calling them Pen 15. Just out of like, it's gonna be
instinct.
Instinct.
Yeah.
No FC. If there was gonna change the FC to 15, like what? Wait, what? Oh, I didn't do that.
Brady, your thoughts about the three teams kind of low in the East?
Man, there's just not a whole lot of excitement, when you just say those three teams' names. Right. Like the pulse kind of goes dead there, and I mean that's the problem. There's no highlight players. There's nothing there. There's kind of dwindling fan bases for those teams, and it's just a struggle to even highlight them.
Yeah, so I've railed on them about especially last week. I railed on Penn FC about just kind of ditching the Harrisburg City Islanders heritage. Do the players care, or is that more of a do it for the fan base, do it for the goodwill kind of thing, and everything else sort of just operates as it normally would?
I think the players that end up caring are the players that have had long ties to the club. I think as a new player coming in, you're kind of indifferent. We're seeing more and more clubs kind of take this like safe professional approach to branding and naming their teams, and
sure.
Which I totally get. But then there's this kind of nostalgic like Jackie Moon semi-pro thing with like the Richmond Kickers, right?
right.
Like how magical is that in the second division of U.S. soccer, there's a team called the Kickers still. And it's like, so we have this league that has the Kickers and then something like Penn FC and then Toronto too. Like it's I don't know. I think the league's got to like figure out like which one are we going for?
It's a little sterile.
Yeah, totally. It's like I think you either go, the tropics, or you stick in it. You just put an FC in front of every single freaking team.
Right on. Good man. 13th, then we have a tie at 11th. The aforementioned Richmond Kickers, matter of fact, and then 11th Charleston and Charlotte. Not a whole lot to separate these guys right now.
They're all confusing.
It is a little weird. Yeah, that's a lot of that like lower, this kind of bottom half of the East, like 10 to, 16 is a little weird just because no one's really separating themselves and there's not really a whole lot here where you go, yeah, that could be really dangerous soon. I think Charleston and Charlotte are on the upswing, but right now it's a little too soon to say that that's going to mean a whole lot.
They've all had flashes. That's the part that confuses me because I keep wanting to write them all off, and then there's like this one game where they look really good or interesting, and I can't give up on any one of these three. I love that they're grouped together. It's perfect.
Kev, I'm going to have a problem. You picked Charleston at 7th. You know that Romario Williams doesn't play there anymore, right?
To be fair, so I have to admit something. I was actually paid by the Carolina Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
To vote these two as high as I did.
All right.
Is there any, like, do we get residuals from that, or is that just a you thing?
No, in fact, now that I've mentioned it, they probably won't pay me.
I don't know. Make sure the check clears before you say that.
I don't know why I voted them as high as I did.
One thing you couldn't say.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, hey, man, we'll PayPal you that over tomorrow morning. Can you just not mention that we're doing this? And you're like, yeah, that's fine.
Oh, by the way,
one thing to be said about Charleston Battery, that the last 2 or 3 games, Taula Guerra, we'll just say Guerra, dude has been making some plays. That guy looks so good. Keep an eye on that guy because probably Real Monarchs are going to steal him next year.
Or in like January.
Right. Maybe as soon as January.
This summer, they'll just be like, you know what? We could use that. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll take him. North Carolina's next.
They are. It's true. 10th, North Carolina. 9th, Atlanta United. Sorry. Hit caps lock and then ATL space UTD2.
The
in 9th
touch really set it off. It was
Thank
perfect.
you. And then in 8th, it's Bethlehem Steel. Again, 3 teams that can go either way. I think this is about right, if I'm honest, and I'm biased, and I think that we did a pretty good job in the East in general. This is going to be a really tight playoff race again in the Eastern Conference.
I think so.
For sure.
All 3 of these guys could slip in pretty easily. Even the 3 above, if they go on a run, could possibly slip into number 8.
Yep.
But I keep having this internal North Carolina versus Indy 11 argument in my head.
Yep.
Does anyone else have feelings about that? Because I can't decide. I think I like North Carolina a lot better, and I don't.
Yeah, they're very like similar teams, or they started off the season in very similar ways, and I thought that they were either like pretty good and just kind of getting a little unlucky with results, and then like the next week they just play pretty poorly. Brady, do you have any thoughts about the new kids in North Carolina?
Well, I think these 6 teams are, like it was just mentioned, the 6 teams, it's a tornado, and like I don't know who's going to shoot out on top. Like it's a crap
called
shoot.
Hurricanes in the East Coast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then there we go. Yeah. Well, it's tornado month here in Tulsa,
Fair
Oklahoma.
enough.
So, I mean, North Carolina kind of excites me. The Fighting Kyle Beckers.
Yeah, that's a new name.
I mean, I really like watching that kid play. Steve Miller, former Roughnecks, is there, and he's been kind of quietly banging in a few really, really nice goals. And then I think Charleston's just one of those teams that historically has kind of found a way, and so it's like I feel it's hard to ignore that kind of thing. And then teams like Bethlehem Steel, it's like, man, I know absolutely nothing about them, and like I know I'm not going to do anything about knowing about them, and it's like, man, I have no idea where they could end up. Like if they quit as a team, if they cease to exist mid-season, I wouldn't even know.
I'm a little hurt, but
I just I know that like players in the league don't talk about them, and it's too bad because when they came into the league, I was so excited about it, and like the whole history side of it really got me going. I remember I was in college, and I was like, oh, maybe I could go play for the Bethlehem Steel, and then no one called. So
I can get somebody on that.
Yeah, shoot him a message to call me.
Man, I know. I was gonna say I know a guy, but I pretty much know all of the guys that can do that. So
okay, cool.
I will ignore what you said about not knowing about them and the whole cease to exist thing because we're not Rochester.
So I'll just have the Carolina Chamber of Commerce PayPal.
Yeah. I'll have the Lehigh Valley send you a check.
Yeah, there you go.
No, the interesting thing for Steel is that they're 2 big center mids. Omar Holness.
Is Omar Holness there? Is he really?
Yeah, no, he's coming off a. This is great because I get to. Now I have leverage over a former professional soccer player.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so he's there. He tore his ACL or his MCL last season and has been coming off of that, and then he was apparently ready to go. This last week against Louisville and had a little bit of nothing major, but a little bit of a setback, like unrelated, with a knee injury or something. So he's not back yet. And then the big driving force behind that team, James Chambers, has been out with the MCL strain for the last 2 weeks or so. So
gotcha.
Both of the kind of engine type guys for them that aren't named Derek Jones aren't around right now. But when they when they get healthy and when they're back in, I think Omar Holness is really going to make himself known. And apparently a fun fact, which I guess I can say now because it doesn't hurt anything. Omar Holness doesn't watch soccer if he can't play it.
So he's watching football. Like what? What is he watching? Baseball?
So I believe he will watch like Steel games. But like he doesn't watch like Europe or anything like that if he can't play, because it just pisses him off that he can't play.
Bitter. It's fair.
So he's going to be really mad when he starts, which will be really fun because he's a very good midfielder.
I want to see him and Jones together.
That would be. Oh, I think that's the idea.
It'd be good.
I'm excited for it. Anyway, 765 Indy 11 Nashville New York 2. Okay,
I have one thing before we get too far beyond them.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you guys high on Atlanta? Because I see nothing to be optimistic about there. For the record, this is their biggest split between anyone for individual rankings.
Yeah, you have them at 13th.
Evan and Phil had them at
Phil
6th. I had them at 6th. Yep. I just don't see it at all. Atlanta has 1 win against New York, who's really swingy. You could say they got a few draws and just lost to Charleston pretty badly, then lost on the road to Pittsburgh. But I don't see much to be optimistic about. What when their second best result after 6 games is a home draw against Louisville, where their goal came on a penalty. Is that good?
So one, your super serious response is, what other team has their name in all caps stylized?
Okay, point.
Major points. And then 2, I think that like the guys that are fringe for the first team are really good. Like Williams, Andrew Carlton, Joseph Samuel. Mitch Hildebrand, I think, is injured still, but he'll be around, and that means they'll either have Alec Kahn or Mitch Hildebrand in net, which is kind of crazy. I don't know. There's a lot to like there, and I know it's based on nothing other than, oh, well, they could loan down some guys and really cause some damage, but that's all I really need.
The thing is, Evan, you have New York Rebels 2 at 5th.
I do.
Or sorry, Pony. I meant Pony. Oh, you don't. Shoot. Never mind.
I have them 5th.
I have them pretty low, I think.
Oh, do you?
Not
really?
too low. Not too low, but
okay. Well, I guess 3 guys in our group here has them at 5th, and I think they're interchangeable. 2 or Atlanta 2 or New York Rebels 2. They're kind of the same kind of group. I'd put them up too high, and I think this is the biggest mistake I've made. I put them too high, but they did step it up against Louisville, and that's kind of why I kind of gave them a little too much credit for that. But I think they have the quality to step it up and do really well when they choose to. But I think they're really faulty, like Red Bulls too.
Yeah, I think they're a worse version of Red Bulls too.
Could you imagine if Atlanta United 2 also had their name in papyrus font?
God.
Wow.
Like
Make that change.
Yeah, make that change, somebody.
Oh,
Chris Winkler, I'm calling you out again. And I know you don't listen to this. I don't think you listen to this podcast. But I know like all of your communications department went to schools in Pennsylvania. So, haha. Where am I at? Right. 765, Indy 11, Nashville, New York Red Bull 2. Another 3 groups of teams where you can go, yep, they could be anywhere in here. I'm gonna be honest. I have Nashville at 10, as opposed to everyone else that may supposedly put them at 6th. I don't really have a reason for that. I really like that team.
I don't know, man. I'm closer to what you said.
Again, it's one of those things where I don't know if they can sustain success. Really, it's nothing against anyone on the team or anything. I think it's a well put together team. They have a good coach. I just don't know if they. I think it's one of those things like Cincinnati, where it's you might have a little bit too much going on off the field. Hi, MLS. To really put yourself into making a deep run in USL, because what's the point? Almost.
No, I think they care.
I mean, it's not that they don't care, but they're in a weird, like, they're in uncharted territory legitimately, and that no one's ever been joining another league in like 2 years.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, they got accepted to MLS before they even started playing USL, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we're going to create this USL team and hope that we can get to MLS. And MLS is like, ooh, you've got bags of money? Welcome. And they're like, oh, well, now what do we do? I guess we keep playing USL? You know.
I don't know. I think they're definitely trying, and they need, if they're smart, they're going to build from USL and use one or, at least one of those players, if not 3 or 5. But gosh, they just can't score goals. I think that's the conversation we need to have, right?
Yeah.
I know defending goes a long way. If they were in the West, I think I'd have them ranked higher, but they're in the East. So,
yeah, they're in the group to me that is the who, if they catch fire, gets good, and who has potential to catch fire. And I think Nashville beats out the other teams, which is why I have them higher. They're at the top end of my, these guys have potential and could actually capitalize on that group.
I said it last week. I wish they would just like sign a new striker. Like if Tommy Heineman could go there, good Lord, then I'd rank him higher. That'd be cool.
That'd be good.
They're just saving money so they can buy a DP striker in 2 years and they join MLS.
Boom.
Brady, are you aware that Matt Pickens is a player coach?
I did not know that, because I had Kosuke Kimura, former Tulsa guy, when he was kind of first talking to me that he was going there, he had kind of lended it that he was going to be a player coach, but I didn't know Pickens was as well.
Yeah, they have 2 player coaches in addition to like an entire coaching staff. So like they have a goalkeeper coach who isn't Matt Pickens, which is hilarious because like how does that work?
I mean, and I think Kosuke, from what Bradley Bourgeois has been telling me, is that Kosuke is not even a player coach now. He's just like a normal player.
Weird.
So, I mean, they've got more resources than they know what to do with.
Literally.
And it's like take a couple of those resources and like trade it for a striker.
Yo, Bradley, you're friends with Bourgeois? And
Oh yeah, he's one of my best buddies.
you don't have a podcast yet?
No, I mean we should, but it would just be us complimenting each other.
I think there's a market for that. I don't know. Like we could
you're
use some more
probably right.
positivity.
I listen to him talk on that show that he does with the lady, with the girl.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You know, I enjoyed it. It was nice that he called out Louisville's pitch real good in one of those.
Oh, it's too bad that their field's that bad. Like they have so many good things going for them, and then they have like that carpet that they roll out, and that's Flint, Michigan, Flint Tropic style, theater.
Yep.
Big fan of Semi-Pro is what we learned.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I tried to do a corn dog giveaway here in Tulsa, but no one bought into it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
5-4-3 in the East, New York Red Bull 2. Number 4, Attendance FC, and sorry. Attendance Football Club, and number 3, Tampa Bay.
Oh man, you doubled down on that joke.
I did. I forgot that they rebranded arbitrarily for no reason.
Papyrus.
There you go.
Everyone. Okay, so what we've learned tonight is that Brady wants 2 things: either really go hammy with your team names, or put FC at the beginning of everything and put all the fonts in Papyrus.
Absolutely, and I think my work here is done, gentlemen.
I think it is. I really think it is. I think we need to just talk to Jake Edwards again and have him really just push hard. Like, what would look better on the USL trophy than just Papyrus?
I started saying like really kind of weird shit on Twitter, and then I noticed the USL and like Jake Edwards all started unfollowing me.
So wait, are we actually talking to like the black sheep of USL and we don't know it yet, and we're gonna lose all of our credibility
honestly,
that we don't have?
I hope so.
Okay, that's fine.
Me too.
I have no idea. I think I put out the Brady Baloo show, and everyone was like, "Whoa, not cool."
I believe it. Brady, how you feel about this? Is a weird grouping in a way.
Yo, Pittsburgh second. I think that stands out to me personally. Yeah. Pony?
It's Lily Ball. I mean, it's Lily Ball. What do you expect?
Kevin and Ryan agreed with you, so maybe Kevin should help you describe this.
I think Tampa and Pittsburgh are pretty interchangeable at 2 and 3. Yep. Whoever's at home wins that game.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah, I'm with Pony, Lily Ball. I don't know, man. It's hard. There's 2 reasons why it's hard. One, I'm not as strongly familiar with the East as I am with the West. Second, with the West, it's Phoenix and Monarchs pretty much, and then everybody else. Of course, I said Sacramento was good, but whatever. And then, and then in the East, it's harder to kind of pick out who's behind Louisville, because Louisville, I think, is the best team in the league right now. And then
they have their field.
Just imagine if they had an actual field.
No, they would lose. They would lose more.
They might.
Maybe.
It would literally be a level playing field. Hey,
we'll see.
I got distracted looking up how to say Attendance Football Club in German.
I like it. This is definitely, like you said, it's a fight for second, basically, and then like Pony said, if Tampa Bay's at home, they pretty much get it. No matter who they play out of these 3 or 4 player teams, maybe even Louisville, if they play at home, Tampa Bay might take it. But my interesting thought is who wins between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh if Tampa Bay is not involved in the situation, because I think that'd be a pretty good battle no matter where they play.
Yeah, I think that one. I don't think Pittsburgh can go in and nip it. I'll say this now and then be wrong and win.
Well, they drew once.
Yeah, I know, but that would just take it to penalties, and I don't know if you want to do that. in this hypothetical playoff match that we're having.
Mitch says ATL UTD too.
Yes, he does. Yeah, I don't know. Brady, do you have any thoughts on Tampa or Pittsburgh?
From the little bit I've seen of Pittsburgh play, they just look like a tough team to play against and to break down. They just look frustrating, and it's they're kind of an anomaly in the top four. I'm just like they could blank a few teams in here, and or they could. It's one probably too early for me to even speculate too much, but they're really interesting for a top four.
Yeah. And then, thank you. Oh my God, Kev, thank you so much.
Thank you. So sorry,
Mike. Leave that in. And then first place, we all have Louisville because why would we pick anybody else? Really, that would be silly. And it's just it's not even everyone's ragging on their pitch, but they're just a really good team, and they won the league last year, and then they kept pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
So why? What would change?
Exactly.
And honestly, I think James O'Connor, their head coach, could win Coach of the Year as long as he would want to.
Yep.
Almost.
Yep. He needs a promotion.
I don't know where he goes though. I don't know. I mean, a lot of those guys you would have thought after they won the league last year would have left, right? Maybe not a lot, but enough. And they all stayed.
That's impressive. That's the most impressive part is how the hell did he keep all those guys? That's really awesome. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, Brady, how do you keep all those guys?
Man, it's hard to make that move from USL to MLS. I don't think it's so much results driven as it is you need to know somebody or you need to get lucky or it's all timing. So, I mean, I know and I've played with plenty of guys that have been certainly good enough or had the stats that, it's obvious. But then, I mean, if you don't know the right people in MLS, it's hard to even get a look. So I can't say for sure that that's what every single human on Louisville went through, but I just know it's so difficult. And I mean, I have really enjoyed watching them play over the last kind of year and a half. And I think Oscar Jimenez, another former Tulsa Roughneck guy, man, it's kind of been fun to see him go after the Roughnecks to PDL and then come back and be such a big presence for Louisville. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he started getting a look he's a Washington guy from the Sounders. It's just unrecognizable what that kid like that's done.
Sure.
How did Mark Anthony Kaye get to LAFC?
Man, I had no clue. That's been a huge head scratcher. I've tried to ask some people around the league, and I mean, then for him to start has been probably the craziest part.
And look pretty good.
Yeah, he's been comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. And really, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and again, this might be a thing for another podcast, but is that really the most that you can ask out of those guys to start at least, is to just look comfortable?
I think so. I mean, honestly, at LAFC, that for them, it's probably a bit of a different expectation.
Sure.
See it in everything you do. It's like, no, you can't just come in here and be comfortable. Like you have to bring something to the table. Yeah. Right. So he got pulled off in the 70th minute this weekend against Seattle, and he had a pretty lackluster performance. But I mean, in the other games I've watched, I'm kind of fangirling LAFC at the moment. I think as most MLS supporters or payer attentioners are doing. But he's looked decent.
Sebastian Ibiaga as well is another guy where a little surprised to see him start. But that's a huge amount of praise if a guy like Patrick Vieira, who's done a lot in terms of developing players and things like that, and just his background kind of throws you in there on a whim.
From what I understood, Sebastian Ibiaga was offered a lot of money to play at Phoenix, and then New York City plucked him. And so, man, I'm happy for him. He's a one. I've been told by Bradley Bourgeois, he's a really good guy and a hard worker, and sets a good example. And two, he's just talented.
Fair enough. Let's run down our top 10 overall.
I know who the best one is.
Here we go. 10 New York Red Bull 2, 9 Swope Park, 7 Sacramento, tied for 7th with Orange County. Attendance Football Club in 6th, Phoenix in 5th, Tampa in 4th, Pittsburgh 3rd, Real Monarchs 2, Louisville City 1.
Louisville ist die beste Fußballmannschaft in der Liga.
Thank you. Kev, that's a really good new voice for you. I want you to just keep doing that forever.
That's sexy.
It's really good, man. I'm feeling it.
I have way too much.
So much better than your normal, not soothing at all voice. And then we had all of our lovely Twitter followers and fans and things give us their top 10. It's a little weird.
Well, most of them. There are a few odd entries in there.
Okay.
Specifically, the person who ranked Orlando, B, and Rochester in the top 10.
Rest in peace.
And the person whose list was Louisville, followed by 9 anybody but Cincinnati's.
I
They're
mean,
both funny, but neither counted.
and wait, so you're telling me the person that put Orlando City B and Rochester didn't include Whitecaps 2 or the Austin Aztecs or the Wilmington Hammerheads?
I thought it was realistic until I got to 9 and 10 until I got down to 9 and 10.
And you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't look right.
Rochester, I actually missed that first.
Oh, so did everybody else. That's the problem. The fan vote: 10th Swope Park, 9th Cincinnati, 8 Phoenix, 7 New York Red Bull, 2 6 Pittsburgh, 5 Sacramento, 4 Real Monarchs, 3 Tampa, 2 Orange County, 1 Louisville. This point in the season, I'm not complaining too much about that. I think New York is a little high. I think Pittsburgh might be a little low, but that's not too bad. So good job.
Right.
Listeners.
And there's one other thing to note about the fan vote. Not to call Carson out, but out of all the fan votes, he was the only one who did not put Louisville as number 1.
What are you doing, bud?
Every other person, including all of us here, put Louisville as number 1.
That's crazy.
You know what I have to say about that, right?
What's
I'm
that?
going to hit the button.
Louisville ist die beste Fußballmannschaft in der Liga.
Okay, great. Attendance. Oh man, if Cincinnati fans weren't mad at us enough already, get ready. We've only called them Attendance Football Club, or Kev has literally put their name into Google Translate and hit the speaker button until just now, where I called them Cincinnati FC. Brady, any kind of final thoughts on like our top 10 or anything like that? And then by all means, please plug yourself.
In terms of the top 10, I think you guys kind of hit it on the head. Like,
yeah,
Pitt like seems like a little low. Red Bulls probably seems a little high. I mean, I'm just like, it's really for me. It's like Phoenix, Cincy, Monarchs, Tampa Bay, Louisville, and then I'm gonna throw Orange County in there. Those are like the ones I'm like, any of these guys for right now for me has a legitimate shot of, hoisting the USL Cup. So, no, I mean, I think you guys are spot on so far. I know I was like tweeted and advertised as like supposed to prove you guys wrong, but you guys are all very knowledgeable.
What's the one thing that was said today that you were like, I don't know about that?
I don't know. The Carolina Chamber of Commerce did PayPal me just now, so I've got nothing. I had a great time on the podcast. This is
man.
You guys do kick-ass stuff.
It's crazy, and I'm always gonna sound like the shill or whatever for the league, but like whenever we get anybody on that's actually been there and done that or anything like that, it's always just super interesting to hear, how different your experiences or even your opinions and things like that, or just kind of your insights on teams are. So I really appreciate you hanging out.
Oh, anytime. Anytime.
With us. Don't say anytime because we'll try to hold you to it. But no, honestly, man, really appreciate having you on. No doubt. Check at Ballew, BALLEW _moon on Twitter.
That is a bit of a shot towards Jackie Moon, just so everyone knows. That's how much of a semi-pro fan I am.
Right on.
Yeah. That's my plug.
But for us, I'm at Vola BSFC. Kev's at K McCamish PDX. He also runs at PTK Podcast.
At PTK Podcast.
Yeah,
It's Play
got
the
it.
Kids
I always want to
Podcast.
say play the kids out full.
You can
but
just
it's
say
not that.
playthekids.com. It's a super easy way to find my podcast.
There you go. Do that. Phil, you're over at Phil Grooms, 2 L's, 2 O's. Also at STL Soccer Report for soccer related things. Pony people can find you at Iron Pony Chef. Brady, if you don't know, we call Pony because his name is also Evan, and the odds of that are really crazy. But there's 2 Evans, so we call him Pony.
Gotcha. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, because like having 2 Evans, like if you just said Evan, then we'd both be like, yeah, and now no
Right.
no confusion.
Perfect.
But yeah, you can find him at Iron Pony Chef for soccer things, and also sometimes he likes to bet people when he's had a little bit to drink. So if you want to try to make some quick money, feel free to hit Pony up.
If you want to catch it early afternoon on Saturdays, that's a good time.
It's Pacific time. And yeah, you can follow the show at the USL Show. We are also on Patreon, patreon.com/the USL Show. Big shout outs to our friends at Roughneck Scarves. Big shout out to my boy DK and all the guys at Soccer Loco. Links on the website, theuslshow.com. We will get this out to you guys for usual upload on Wednesday, and then we will have a show tomorrow, which is our normal weekly recap of results and things for Thursday. So double header this week. But really, we moved up just to have Brady on and talk power rankings. So thanks again, my man. And until the next time you hear from us, take care, everybody.
Thanks, fellas.